Hey everybody, welcome back to Therapists Unmasked. I'm Ashley.
I'm Sam, and today we are joined with our new therapist friend, Valerie, who speaks about how her previous traumas have affected her and made her the therapist she is today.
We hope you enjoy the episode and let's roll the intro. I'm so excited to have you on. Thank you so much for coming. Tell us about you. Introduce yourself, where you're from, what you do for work, and what your views are on mental health.
Okay. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Sammy. It's so good to get to meet you guys. After seeing y'all on TikTok and seeing y'all, I was like, oh my gosh, I think we'd be friends. And then you reached out to me, so I was so excited to come on here. So my name is Valerie. I am a licensed professional counselor associate in the state of Texas. Currently, what I do for work is actually 3 jobs. It's not that much. Okay. So I
Not
work
that much.
I
Yeah,
work
no
for an
big deal.
online private practice. So I have a few clients there. I also have an in-person private practice that I work for that I go to twice a week. So Monday and Tuesday, I'm at that private practice seeing clients in person, and then Wednesday through Friday, I am completely virtual. So on top of being a licensed professional counselor associate, I've also started an empowerment coaching business. So I basically empower trauma survivors to get out of survival mode, help regulate their nervous system, give them emotional regulation skills, give them skills to support them in their relationships. So I've been doing that on the side as an empowerment coach. So I'm a therapist and an empowerment coach. I also do social media that I started last year in June 2023, and I've grown to 50,000 followers, which is great. So I just love social media. So I do those 4 things. Yes. So my views on mental health is I believe that it's just as important as our physical health. And I believe at one point or another, we are all going to struggle with our mental health. So I think just like we go to the doctor and get regular checkups, we need to check in with ourselves, just like we take medicine if we're sick. We need to take our medicine, whether that be like going for a walk, spending time with friends, or doing your deep breathing. So I do believe that we all need to manage and take care of our mental health. But I feel like we get so involved in the external things. We're always on the go, 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 that we forget to check in with ourselves. We forget to eat or drink. We forget to manage our emotions. We repress everything. It's something that we need to take care of, because this is the most important relationship that we'll ever have, is the one with ourselves. So I definitely take care of my own mental health, encourage my friends to do the same. I manage all my clients' mental health. So I do believe it's very important.
You're genuinely passionate about what you do in your career, which is a lot of the times with culture and just society nowadays, we don't really hear that as often as how people are passionate about their job. A lot of the time people are in their careers just because, they're like, why not? Maybe it's not what I love to do, but I tolerate it. At the end of the day, if you don't love it, you're gonna be burnt out easily.
Yeah, I know.
So
I am very blessed in the fact that I love what I do and I'm passionate about what I do, and not everyone gets to say that. I do have clients, they're like, yeah, I'm doing this just for the money, but I have this other thing on the side that's going to fund the thing that I actually am passionate about, and that's perfectly okay. I'm just lucky that I just get to have both in one. So,
But I'm really excited to talk to you because I wanted to tell you why I reached out to you.
yes, please tell
What
me.
really caught my attention with we've interviewed a lot of trauma therapists as of lately.
Yeah.
And you know what really caught my attention with you was the fact that I love that you make content to where you're like, I've been through trauma too, and here are the coping skills that I use when I'm triggered, or whatever the case is. I love that you're so open about it. I love that you show like what the coping skill is, the benefits of it, etc. Seeing your videos really caught my attention of like, oh, okay, these are some skills that I can use with my clients to be able to teach them. And I just love your content because you're so real. Like you're just like, yo, I go through it too.
That's so funny, because that's exactly what I was thinking about you guys. They're so real. They're not putting up on a front. They're not trying to be these perfect little therapists that just practice everything they preach. They're like, we're real, we struggle too. And I think that was the whole point of you guys making this podcast, because this is reality. We're not here to sugarcoat or just be toxic positivist all the time. And it's funny you say that because I feel like I actually struggle with being real as a healing perfectionist and showing up authentically. So I do have nuggets here and there, like, yeah, I struggled with this. Here's what I used. But I've been trying to do more of that lately because I noticed when in the beginning, when I first started as a healing perfectionist, I wanted to be perceived as perfect. That was my thing growing up. I needed to be perceived as perfect. Like I have my shit together. Like I have all the good grades, I have all the friends, looks, everything. Like I was that controlling perfectionist. And I could say like I've mostly healed from that, but it comes up every now and then. And that's including on social media. But I just wanted to be honest with you that I'm working on being more authentic and vulnerable and showing my true side.
You being a healing perfectionist, do you have any siblings that you had to feel like that, or any cousins that you were close to, and if culture also had an effect on that?
I'm actually the opposite. So I'm the youngest of four. I have three older brothers, and I'm the youngest of four. The first two, they were like the kind of rebellious ones. The second one, they were. And so, like, out of them, us four, like, I felt like I had to be the good girl. So I have like some good girl trauma, religious trauma too. So I felt like I had to be the good girl. And also because growing up religious, my parents are just church in general tended to be like more critical and judgmental. And so if I felt like I had to be perfect to avoid shame, to avoid judgment, and avoid pain. And so I think that's where it stemmed from.
Coming from a very religious family, are you yourself following a faith, or have you strayed away?
So I've strayed away from specifically religion, but not from like my relationship with God. So I stray away from church and religion. Like right now, I don't have like a consistent church I go to because it's hard for me to find one that I genuinely trust. And a lot of religious people tend to do like a lot of spiritual bypassing where they're just quoting scripture to get rid of people's pain, not really being empathetic and listening. So that's kind of the reason why I strayed away from church and religion and all of the legalistic fundamentalist. So I strayed away from that, but like me and God are good. We're good.
Okay, that's great. I like the fact that even though you don't have a specific church that you go to, you still believe in God. You still do what it is that you need to do in order to have that good relationship with Him. And that's not something that we hear every day.
Yeah, it's not. And I do hear it the same way too. Like a lot of people will go one way or the other. They're really kind of really stuck in their beliefs and the legalistic mentalities and their religion, but they're kind of suffering too. And then the other way, we're like, I want nothing to do with God or religion. Don't ever mention him. I'm like, okay, I mean, if that's how you feel. That's fine. And I mean, it wasn't really God who hurt you. It was the people.
Well, can I say that I relate to you in the sense of when it comes to your siblings, right? The rebellious sibling and all that. My brother's an alcoholic. My parents never put pressure on me, but I put pressure on myself. So I always felt the need to be this perfect girl who had the good grades, had a career. So I can definitely relate to you on being that perfectionist. With that being said, do you still feel the need to be perfect, having to have that perfectionist mentality?
Not for them. No.
Okay.
It's like I resurfaces every now and then, but it's definitely like I
How,
manage it.
how about for yourself though?
Yeah, every now and then, especially now that I'm starting a business and I'm noticing like, oh, this needs to be perfect. I need to record this module and get it out and it needs to be perfect, this meditation or whatever. I notice as I started my coaching business, it's coming up more and I'm just kind of being aware of it, like, oh, okay, interesting. I notice I'm procrastinating on this because I feel the need that it has to be perfect. So yeah, it is coming up more now, but for the past, years, and even like in grad school, I noticed like it didn't come up. I didn't have that need to have the perfect grades. Honestly, I didn't even care. Like I was like, let's get this out there. I'm not going to spend any more time and energy on it. I know I'm going to pass. I know I'm going to be a therapist. So I think I healed a lot of it, but anytime it can still resurface and it's not like it's completely gone. I manage it and I live with it.
What motivated you to become a therapist anyway?
So I think it would be from my family. There was just a lot of generational trauma. I noticed in my family, for example, I'm just gonna give a kind of funny story, kind of sad story. One time I asked my grandma, I was like, hey, grandma, like what type of man do you want me to marry? And she said, as long as he hasn't been to prison. And so all of my grandma's son-in-laws have been in prison, things like that. Or my aunt's just been in an abusive relationship. My mom married my dad who came from a lot of childhood trauma, and then he himself, like he strayed and he was a drug addict for a little bit, went to prison when I was born, came out, and he was still kind of like living that lifestyle. And then he came back to us. So it was just a lot of that. And then seeing how that affected my two eldest brothers who are nearly in their 40s. So they're 15 years older than me. So seeing how that affected them, seeing how my cousins responded, not having coming from a two-parent household, not having that, coming from a single parent household, or being raised by my grandparents, seeing how that's affecting their life. They either dropped out, or I have family members still in prison, or family members who died because of drug abuse, and just witnessing all that. And me as one of the youngest in out of like 30 grandchildren, I'm just like, what's going on here? Like, is this normal? I don't think it is. Something's going on. And so my grandma and my mom would always say, it's just a generational curse. It's a curse, curse, curse. And that's somewhat true, but it's also like a lot of generational trauma and patterns that have been passed on that y'all have never dealt with. So maybe subconsciously I'm like, maybe if I just help heal other people, I'm healing my family. So sometimes I think that, like, did we really become therapists because of our own wounds? But we probably did.
I
Oh, for
believe it.
sure.
Yeah.
I believe it. Everything that happened to you, did you ever find therapy yourself, or did your family ever approve of therapy?
They probably didn't realize when I was in high school that I probably would have benefited from therapy, just because it seemed like I just had it all together. I had the good grades. I was
Mhm.
in clubs, I had friends. So, but deep down, I struggled a lot with low self-esteem. I absolutely hated myself, hated my body, had terrible, like, disordered eating, body image issues in high school, low self-worth, a lot of anxiety. I just didn't know it at the time. I honestly just didn't know. I'm like, I'm just having everything together. I sweep everything underneath the rug. So it wasn't until I was 18, I was a freshman in college, where everything just came back up. And so I'm going to tell you a story. It's going to get a little dark, but it's okay.
Love
So
it.
when I was 18, and in January 28th, 2019, I attempted suicide, and I did not mean to. I don't know how else to explain this, but it was a para-suicide attempt where I was feeling very depressed. I was feeling like I had no purpose in my life for some reason, which is weird because I'm like, how am I this happy Christian positive girl, and now I'm like this depressed person? Like, who am I even more? I don't have any purpose. And it did stem from like a bad friendship breakup. It did stem from that, and then that just triggered something in me, and it all came back up. I'm like, I don't want to feel this pain. So I took a bunch of pills on that day to numb everything. And I'm not gonna lie, it worked for a little bit. I'm like, this is great. I don't have any pain. My friends drove me to the hospital, stayed there for like a week. They were planning on putting me in the inpatient unit. So I guess so I wouldn't do it again, even though I had no desire to die. I just wanted the pain gone. So I think that's what really jump started everything, jump started my healing journey. I'm like, oh, I had some stuff that I buried that I never really dealt with. And here I am, like, depressed, and I don't know why. I've been happy, positive, and this perfect Christian girl my whole entire life. Like, did this really just happen to me? So my brothers came to the hospital, and when I was there for like 5 days waiting to see if they're gonna put me into the inpatient unit, but we left without being discharged. I took out my IV, and they're like, we can go. Like, you don't have insurance. We're just gonna go. So I escaped the hospital after being trapped there, after having a babysitter for like
Uh,
5 days straight, and we just left, and I never looked back. So I know I wanted to be a therapist. When I was going through all of that, I had already had my first therapy session, because when I started in school, the professors are like, y'all need to go to therapy if you're going to be therapists. And then when I came back to school, they mandated it anyways. They're like, you have to go to therapy so you don't try to kill yourself again. But I'm like, I wanted to go anyways. That's when I had my first therapist. It was at the university.
How did your family feel about the idea of you seeing a therapist?
Yeah, I don't think they really understood why I needed it. Now they did, because they're like, "Oh, she almost died. She probably needs it." But I honestly, like, I don't remember what they said, how they felt. To this day, like, we don't talk about what I did for some reason, because it's just very taboo, and we just don't talk about it. I mean, that is one thing. They know I'm a therapist now, but like, they're opening their eyes more. We've told them they need to go to therapy too, and they're just like, no, we have Jesus, I don't need therapy. Like, say things like that. And my dad texted me something funny the other day. He's like, mija, I was watching my novela, and there's two people in there that are seeing a therapist. I think you're onto something. I'm like, dad is,
A novela.
yes. He's like, two of them are kind of crazy, and they have to go see a therapist, so you might be onto something.
You did bring up something interesting, that what happened was never talked about again. And I feel like that's so common in our culture too, is just throwing things under the rug and never talking about it again.
Yeah.
which then causes maybe some resentments, maybe some unresolved emotions
Mhm.
because you do that.
Yeah, it's very common in the Hispanic culture. Just if something happens, just sweep it under the rug, don't talk about it. We want to have that perception that everything's fine here, but deep down, there's a lot of stuff going on. Like, I don't know why. I have a lot of friends who have, like, there's a lot of infidelity in the Hispanic culture too. Like, I have a lot of friends who have dads who cheated and they just kind of stay like that and they live like that and they're just okay with that. Or I don't know, they're having their own mental health struggles, but no one talks about it. So it's just no one talks about these things, but it's so important too.
It is swept under the rug a lot of the time. I think it has to do with the fact the Hispanic culture just being very chismosos. And then it comes to the point of not wanting to be embarrassed in front of family, not talking about it and not going through that embarrassment and just letting it go. As therapists, we have to talk. We talk to our clients and we say, open communication is the best. It's better to resolve any issues. It's better that way relationships can get repaired. And I feel that that's also not talked about. It ends up not healing anybody. Have you ever attempted to bring up the topic of what happened again to your parents? And have you ever attempted to just have that sit down conversation?
I have not really. A few months ago, I did apologize. It just hit me later on that my parents have already been through so much grief. They've lost their parents, they've lost siblings, they have a lot of traumatic grief. And it just hit me one night. I was like, Mom, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I can't imagine how much I probably scared you. And she almost wanted to cry, but then she just kind of like moved on with it. Like she didn't really say anything. And if it does get brought up now, it's in joking, which I do too. So it's kind of my fault. We're like either joking about it. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was in Waxahachie, Texas, which is where I went to school, where I did it. I was like, oh, look, there's a hospital I almost died at. Like I guess we're kind of using humor to talk about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really had like a sit down conversation, and I don't think they ever understood why I did.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I think I'm still trying to figure out why too. And I just want to know why. I don't know why, but what I'm thinking is it was just a lot of repressed, even generational trauma, even trauma that my parents dealt with that they never faced. My uncle, who I never met, like committed suicide. My mom and dad have probably struggled with depression themselves and never faced it. And I'm just like, maybe I'm just the chosen one. I'm just chosen to feel everything. And I did. I felt everything after that. I felt a lot of things, and I can say that I am healing. I don't believe in complete healing or to be healed. So I won't use the word healed, but I healed a lot of past wounds that they never dealt with.
When talking to an alcoholic, for instance, they never say, I was an alcoholic or I was a recovering alcoholic. No, they say I am a recovering alcoholic
Yeah.
because it's not something that they will heal from or they have healed from. It's something they're still currently healing because even if they have one drink, they
Mhm.
can regress
Yeah.
and start over from zero.
Yeah, it's definitely a lifelong journey. And that's what I believe is true to be about healing. And that's why I don't promote like just complete healing, do this program, you'll be fully healed. But I'm like, that's not true. But I'm going to give you the skills to tolerate the discomfort of emotions or situations when they come up because I can't control the external environment for you. But I'm definitely going to give you these skills, definitely let them know where like trauma can resurface at any time, at any point in your life.
What are the coping skills that you like to teach your clients, and what are some coping skills that you like to use on yourself?
Yeah. So it's basically the same question because the ones I teach my clients are the ones I'm normally using the most often. So I would say deep breathing is the best one. It's also the easiest one because anyone can breathe. It's easy. So it's like I do the inhale for 4, hold for 4, and then exhale for 8. And I do that for sometimes around 5 minutes. And so breath work, I love breath work. I also use different types of bilateral stimulation. So like I love the butterflies, or I love just whenever I am feeling like pretty triggered, I'll listen to bilateral stimulation noises. And so I'll kind of do that like when I'm recovering. I like stretching. I love nature walks.
So there's one that I saw on TikTok, Instagram. It was one where you were going like this on your face.
Oh, the tapping.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so that's the emotional freedom technique. So it's called EFT tapping. And so what EFT tapping is, if you're familiar with acupuncture, they're putting like these little needles in those acupuncture points. And there's acupressure where they're putting pressure on those points. And EFT tapping is where you're tapping those points. And so we're just like, this is a tap, this is a acupuncture point. This one is under the eye, side eye, lip, chin, collarbone, under the arm, and then side of your hand. And so what I'm doing when I'm doing these, which I don't do these every day, like this specific one, like I don't do it every day, but I find myself like, oh, I really just really want to tap right now. And so I might say like, even though I'm feeling anxious right now, I unconditionally love and accept myself. Even though I'm feeling tired today, I still love and accept myself. Even though today is stressful, I still love and accept myself. So I'm kind of like saying these phrases over and over, kind of going through like the acupuncture points, and that's just EFT tapping. And so I don't do it every day, but I find myself doing it, something that I like every now and then.
The fact that you said that these are pressure points for acupuncturists, now I'm like kind of connecting the dots and I'm just like, oh, when I have a headache, it's here. When I get sick or even like a migraine, it's either from up here or I feel the pressure like down here. So that's interesting. I never thought of it in like that
Yeah, I
way.
do that every now and then. I feel like the deep breathing, singing, like I can do every day because that stimulates the vagus nerve. Any type of shaking and dancing, it's just like easy to do. Just put on some cumbias or reggaeton, like that's fun. So
Music around the house while you're cleaning.
I do that all the time.
Oh, me too. My house is never quiet.
Talk to me about the butterfly one, right? T-
Mhm,
Teach me how that what that looks like and like what that's supposed to do.
mhm. Yeah, so it's actually from like y'all know what EMDR is, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so they do that in EMDR. It's just another form of bilateral stimulation. The reason why EMDR is helpful is because they're like processing traumatic memories while you're still awake by doing the back and forth. So
Mm.
there's like the finger, they do the back and forth. One of them is the tapping. The other is if you're, I'm not EMDR certified, by the way, but I just know this about EMDR. I'd love to be. Or just the tapping on your legs, or it's the noises, this, or the tapping on their legs. But I just know that tapping is what helps them process the traumatic memory.
Tell me about what your coaching work looks like.
Yeah, for sure. So I offer one-to-one coaching sessions, and while therapy really focuses on the past and processing the past, so with my coaching, I focus more on the present and the future. We only talk about the past as it's relating and affecting the present. So I offer a program called Reclaim Your Power, and it's just a 4-month coaching program where they have me as their coach. We have our one-to-one sessions. On top of that, they have access to like 16 different modules based on several different topics. So one of them is safety and nervous system regulation skills. There's also modules on self-care, like how to build a self-care routine, a morning routine, night routine, looking at their physical health because a lot of trauma survivors struggle with even staying consistent with that, which it makes sense. You know, if they were abandoned as children, they might abandon their own physical needs. So I have modules on that. I have modules on how to have like a supportive, healthy relationship, you know, relationship building skills. And then the last one is just the last pillar that I have is self-empowerment. So there's modules on clarifying their vision and their values for life, moving forward, moving beyond trauma. And so they have our one-to-one sessions. They have access to these modules. They have access to me in between sessions. So I can text my clients every day or they can message me whenever. So I'm giving them a lot of access to me because sometimes we just need that support from a coach. If they choose to, like they can bring their partner into our sessions. So it's a very transformative journey that I go through with them. It's more personable. Honestly, it's almost like a friendship. And I can be friends with my coaching clients too, which I love. I can be friends with them. I can see them from anywhere around the world. Whereas a therapist, I don't get to do that.
Knowing that you do all the like this coaching stuff, like how do you find time for yourself? Because you have your clients reaching out to you at any time of the day. So like how are you taking care of yourself? Where are you finding time to do things for you?
So I actually do have the time because I work from home, and honestly, my caseload isn't high right now. I know like most therapists see like 5 to 6 clients a week, no, a day. And for me, like I'm ranging about like 10 to 15 clients a week. So it's actually not that much, even though because in private practice, it is so slow, like super slow. And I went straight into it. I still don't, it's been almost a year. I still don't have like a full caseload in those two practices. Still don't have a caseload in my coaching business. So combined, I probably have like maybe 25 clients, but they're like sporadic every other week, once a month, whatever. Coaching clients are consistent. So I do have time for me. And so I usually have like just a really good morning routine, really good night routine. Yeah. So I do have time in between sessions. I love to take walks. I love to work out. I love to spend time with my husband and my friends. So I do get time.
Ooh, you're married. How long have you been married for?
It's going to be 4 years this. Mhm.
That's
Oh,
so awesome. And where's your family from?
We're from San Angelo, Texas, but we're pretty Texan. So I'm so Texan that I don't speak Spanish.
No.
I know, I know, I know. But I'm trying to learn Spanish. My husband's actually, his family is from Monterrey, Mexico. So his family, they all speak Spanish. I'm the only one that doesn't. So when I moved to Houston, it was kind of like a culture shock because everyone spoke Spanish except me. And there's more immigrants over here, whereas my hometown is very white. And so even the Hispanics that are there, like a lot of them don't speak Spanish like me for some reason. And so I never was made fun of for not speaking Spanish until I moved to Houston. So I was like, wow, like y'all are mean.
Everybody calls you like a gringa or something. Like,
Yeah.
welcome to the culture.
I mean, I still love my culture, but I'm just one of those weird no sabos that's like too Hispanic for my white friends, and I'm too white for my Mexican friends.
I'm Mexican. Well, Mexican Uruguayan. It's funny because Uruguayans have an accent and Mexicans don't have the same accent, obviously. Whenever I speak Spanish, I will say, I speak Spanish. I have the Uruguayan accent, but because I am surrounded by my Mexican family, I will say a lot of Mexican verbiage. So I have the accent of the Uruguayan, but I have the vocabulary of a Mexican,
Oh, okay, that's
which is
cool.
a very interesting mix.
Yeah. And where are you from, Ashley? Are you Mexican as well?
no, so my dad is from Ecuador and my mom was from Colombia.
Oh, so you're Colombian and Ecuadorian.
Yes,
Okay, so we have a variety. I'm just plain Mexican.
ma'am.
Hey, just for one place, listen. Some people will be like, oh, I'm just from here. No, it's never, I'm just from here. It's, I'm from here. I wear it with pride.
Yeah, it's more common over here because I'm in Texas, so there's more Mexicans than there is anything else. There's
Gotcha.
some people from Honduras, but I never meet someone who's Colombian, Uruguayan, Chilean, like Argentina. Like I don't meet the other Latino cultures.
Gotcha. That's
Interesting.
interesting.
Here's the thing about my Spanish though. So I can speak Spanish. I can hold up a conversation in Spanish, but then when it comes to adults, I forget about it. I forget about my Spanish. Like all of it goes out the window. I'm not very confident with my Spanish when it comes to speaking with adults. I'll like naturally talk in Spanish with my friends, but then like when it's an adult, forget about it. And especially I'm trying to get better at it, especially now at my job because they're throwing all the Spanish people at me. So it's hard because again, I'm not very confident with it, but I try. I try. What are you thinking, Sammy? I feel like you're thinking about something.
No, it's the complete opposite with me. I look white. I look like a complete gringa, and I'm not. I only spoke Spanish for like the first 4 years of my life. I was raised by my whole family, but because everyone spoke Spanish, nobody remembered that when I had to start school, I had to learn English. So my mom always tells the story that when it was the first day of school, she was like, "Oh my God, I never taught you English. Wait, okay, this is how you say, I need to go to the bathroom."
Oh
As
my
we're walking to the door of the school. Even though I didn't speak English, I still knew how to communicate. And even till this day, like my Spanish out of my three siblings is the best one. I'm the complete opposite of Ashley in that
Yeah,
sense.
no, talking in Spanish, especially providing psychoeducation on something in Spanish is probably the hardest thing. It really is.
I will say though, like any intervention I've learned, even though my Spanish is at a fluent level,
Mhm.
learning interventions, learning verbiage, psychology verbiage, like
Exactly.
anything, it's so hard because everything we learned was in English.
Yeah.
So doing trainings in Spanish, doing supervision and stuff in Spanish, I feel completely out of it. I feel like it's a different language because I'm not used to it and it's hard. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I
It
am so
throws me
lost."
off. Yeah, it
Yes.
throws me off and it makes me feel like I'm not I don't know, like I'm not a competent therapist. I don't know, like I just put that stuff in my head because it's like, damn, I really don't know how to explain these things in Spanish. So like I feel like I'm failing my client right now. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I feel like my clients see me and they're just like, "Oh, she doesn't know how to say this in Spanish," and I mess up so much.
Yo, they look at me like that too. And sometimes they help me say certain words that I can't say. It's so embarrassing. I hate it.
Well, what I do know is y'all speak Spanish better than me. And here y'all are being all hard on yourselves.
Yeah, I'm very hard on myself when, especially when it comes to Spanish,
Me too.
mostly because it's a hard language to grasp. But the good thing is, like, when you grasp it, you can understand other languages. So I can understand Portuguese,
Yeah.
which is really nice. But also, I'm just like, when it comes to my clients, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to fumble. I don't want to like embarrass myself in front of these clients who are coming to me for
Mhm.
help.
Literally same.
Funny enough, there are some words that I know better in Spanish than I know in English. So majority of my friends, they do speak Spanish, but I'm just like, oh my goodness, it's this word in Spanish, but what's the translation in English? And I
Yeah, my
I
friends
do
do
the
that
same
all the
thing.
time.
Yep.
And
forget.
anytime you're bilingual, you do that all the time.
Yeah, it's like you forget, your brain kind of turns off and you're just like, wait, I know the word in Spanish, but I don't know the word in English.
Yeah, my
What is
husband
it?
still does that.
Going back to the conversation of trauma, I'm
Mhm.
wondering if you experience counter transference with your clients, and when you do, how are you dealing with that?
Yes, I have. It hasn't been that often, honestly. I think if it did happen, I would just make sure that I either talk to my supervisor about it, talk to the hot Latina counselor in our group, like our little group. That's also like my friends, and we're all therapists, so like we try to meet up and like talk about things like that. And I just kind of notice it, sit with those feelings, and make sure I am a competent therapist at that moment if anything is transferring. But there have been times where I used it to empathize with someone else. For example, like I did have a client who was a single mom and she was struggling, escaping like abusive relationship, all the things. And at one point I felt like she's just my mom. Like that's something my mom had to deal with. My mom, was a single mom. She had 4 kids. My dad was in prison. Like I can't imagine how hard that was for her. And so I just used that to empathize with her. And so it was a kind of powerful, like empathetic moment where she could feel seen and heard. And so I know a lot of therapists kind of look down on it, but you can use it for good. And so I think I did use it for good at that time. And other times, I'm not really sharing using this self-disclosure, but I'll just make sure like I'm talking to my supervisor or my friends about it, or just kind of sitting with those feelings.
How long have you been practicing for?
It's just been about a year. So I just graduated last year.
Oh,
Congratulations,
interesting.
welcome.
Yeah, congratulations. That's awesome. So, what advice would you give someone that's trying to get into the field?
I would tell them to go to therapy themselves. First of all, I would tell them to have the best self-care routine ever. Like
Yeah.
try, just have some really good self-care. And then I would also tell them to like talk to other therapists, see if this is something you really want to do. Look into different programs because your program can make or break you, literally set you up for success or failure. And of course, like do their own like research and education on becoming a therapist. How many clients are y'all seeing a week?
Uh,
Y'all got really
so
quiet.
I see about 15 a day. So, can you imagine five days a week? How many I see
And
in
aren't
total?
yours 30-minute sessions too? I think I
Yes,
remember one of you
that is
saying that.
exactly what I said. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I see people with like schizophrenia, everything under the sun that you could think of, I work with. And it's hard, because the imposter syndrome does come up because it's like, damn, am I really meant for this? Because I don't know what I'm doing with this person.
So my caseload as of right now is 30. I have
Okay.
30 clients
It's like that's how many clients you have total.
total. That's how many clients I have total. However, I have 10 intakes scheduled within the next like 2 weeks. So I'll be adding more to my roster because I work in a clinic. There's a lot of no calls and no shows, like I said, and a majority of the time I am constantly swapping clients in and out, constantly discharging. And that's when more people get added to my caseload. And so a majority of the clients that actually stay is actually pretty rare. And a majority of the time, I have to remind myself it's not because of who I am as a therapist. It's just that a majority of the time they say, I'm not ready to process this, or I feel fine and I don't feel like I need to process this any further. Or majority of the time, they're just like, oh, I didn't know this was trauma therapy for trauma. I thought this was just general therapy. I'm just like, no. So there's a mixture of reasons that cause the constant switching in and out, but I think I've stayed stagnant at around 25 to 30 clients within the past 6 months. I have a few coworkers who have said they see about 100 clients or more in general
Jeez. I
within
don't
the
know.
week. It depends because they'll say, oh, some clients are either bi-weekly or some clients I speak to on a month-to-month basis,
Mhm.
just like as a maintenance check-in. So there's different rules, there's different, it varies very widely. So I can't really speak on them in that regard, but working in a clinic is definitely not for the faint of heart.
Nope.
You need to be prepared for mentally, emotionally.
Yep.
I was not fully aware of it until I was actually in the job. And I never did my research either on private practice versus clinics. So I didn't know much about it until I was actually doing the work.
They should have talked about this in school a little bit more.
They should have. Our program was very heavily based on career counseling. And yeah, a majority of our classes were career counseling 1, career counseling 2, how to do these assessments if you want to be career. We were not for it. We all just were like, no, we want like the nitty gritty. There was one trauma class, and that's the one I enjoyed the most. That's the one I was just like, oh my God, this was the best class ever. And yeah, we didn't really learn much about everything else because I think they were primarily focused on making us vocational counselors rather than mental health counselors.
Sam, I absolutely relate to you in the sense of where you said like you didn't really know much about like being in a clinical setting like that until you were actually like thrown into the job. I didn't know what the hell I was expecting in the job that I'm in now. Like I had no idea. I just thought it was just the simple individual therapy, but like it no, it's a whole different ball game.
You can talk and have multiple conversations with people about working in clinics, working in private practice, but they won't actually know until they're thrown in, until they get the job and they're doing the nitty gritty, which is what essentially happened to you. You know, you talked about this job for so long, you wanted it, and now that you're in it, you're just like, oh my God.
So I've really been in the mental health field for about 4 years now, because I started as a BA, a behavioral assistant, working with
Mhm.
kids in their homes. Once I got my license in 2022, I then worked in a private practice. I then worked in schools as a therapist. So to go from those things to then working in a clinic, it was a big transition for me. It
Yeah.
was a
What did
big
you
transition.
enjoy the most out of all of those jobs?
Good question. Which one did I enjoy the most? Honestly, private practice, because I feel like I can have full control of my schedule. I could see whoever I want, and so like that's that part I'm really excited for when I get to that point
Yeah.
where I can open up my own private practice, because I'm still accumulating my hours and such. But that was probably my favorite part of it. And I also did like working in schools too, because like I'm a very social person, so like I love talking to people, so I was able to talk to teachers, the staff, and like whatever. I really liked that job too, just because of the interactions. This job can be really isolating because you're in the office all day, just working on documentation and just, yeah. So it's hard, but don't get me wrong. Let me not put it down completely, because I am
Mhm.
grateful for the fact that like I'm learning about populations that I've never worked with before. So it's really not as bad as I make it seem sometimes. I
Yeah.
promise.
Sure. Like you're still in your dream job, in your dream career. So I went straight into private practice as soon as I graduated. signed on with 2 private practices. My 2 other friends, the Hot Latino Counselor Group, they're gonna listen to this. They're like, "Oh, you talked about us." They did the same thing. They're in private practice, but we were so frustrated and angry on how slow it was getting clients. We were not making consistent income, and I just started making consistent income. Whereas for 7, 8 months, I was not making a consistent income. So we were so frustrated, so angry. Like, we didn't talk about this, but we know we didn't want to work at a clinic. We know we didn't want to work at a nonprofit because we didn't want to be underworked, overpaid. I'm like, let's just go straight into private practice. Then like we can build our own slowly. So we're still there. We now are like more consistent at least. But one of my friends did move to a clinic that she did her practicum at. And so so she could have that consistent salary, whereas in private practice, we only get paid when we see clients and that's it. And luckily there's not a lot of admin work. We're just doing the case note, treatment plan. That's about it. So I'm only getting paid when I see my clients. And for her, she's like, this is still not enough. Like I'm going to go back to the clinic. And so that was her choice. And at least she doesn't have like that stress of money anymore. So it's just there's pros and cons to both. Does get benefits where she's at. So she's happy there, but she knows like that's not where she wants to be long term. She does want to have like her own private practice. And so luckily now like I have a consistent income, but for a while like we were struggling because I didn't have one. Like it was all on my husband and he's an immigrant, he's a male, and so it was hitting like us as well. So it's just there's pros and cons to both. I see why people can prefer the salary and the consistent basis, but I also see why people go into private practice so they can have full control. So yeah.
Well, we've talked about a lot today, so let's talk about the present moment. Where's your mental health at today on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being amazing.
I would say it's about at a 9.
Really?
Hey, that's great.
I'm in a pretty good place. Like after struggling a lot, like in my past with anxiety or depression or perfectionism or low self-esteem, all those things, which like may come up again, like at any point in my life, but I feel like I have the skills and the tools and knowledge to get through them.
When you are at a low point in life, like what do you do?
So I sit with my feelings. I'm a big crier. I'm a big into like just sit with the feels, do whatever you need to do to liberate and express that emotion, whether that be crying, screaming, shaking, whatever that is. Like I sit with it and then it kind of releases it. There's just a sense of peace afterwards. And then I just know like I'm gonna be okay. And then that's when I use like my coping skills. And of course, like I have my faith, I have my friends, I have my husband, I still have my family that I don't live close to, but like I can always call them if I need to. So if I'm ever at a low point again, which I probably will be someday, another time, when I am at that point, I know what I'm going to do. And I don't know if you'll have this, but yesterday I was just having like this weird thought and I texted my husband about it, like, hey, like we're doing pretty good. Like, I don't know why. I just feel like something bad's gonna happen. And I don't know if y'all have ever felt that way, but it's just like, I don't know, I've had people pass in my life like different years, and then I don't know, we've had different struggles like here and there. So I'm like, we're doing really good right now. Like my husband got a new job and like everything's good. My coaching business is getting better. Like I love what I do. I'm absolutely passionate about what I do. So I'm like, is another shoe gonna drop? Like, have you ever felt that way? So I'm at a good place right now. So I'm just saying, like, it's so good. Is something gonna happen? And like, why can't we just let ourselves be happy, you know?
Yeah, don't jinx yourself like that, Val.
I
What
know.
are you doing?
Isn't that weird? I'm just like thinking out loud here. Like I know how to like reframe and redirect. Like let's just let ourselves be happy, you know. But I'm like, I just found that interesting, and I know that probably just comes from my parents, like because they've lost a lot of people in their life as well, and just like that traumatic grief that was like passed on to me. Like, why can't we just let ourselves be happy and enjoy the present moment, you know?
Have you had that before? Could that be why you think that way?
Probably so, because I think the last time would be when my grandpa passed away, and me and my mom just looked at each other, and we're like, we just knew it was coming for some reason. Like the last time I saw him, I just knew that was the last time I was seeing him. So it was just like this weird, I'm like psychic, or not psychic, or I don't know, maybe it was just this weird thing. And my mom has said things here and there. Like I remember years ago when my brother was in a motorcycle accident, and it was really bad, and she's like, I just knew something bad was gonna happen. Like she just knew. I'm like,
That
I
intuition.
don't want that.
More bad things happen when you focus on the bad things happening, because when you're more focused on how things are going well and everything, then is essentially like manifestation. You're manifesting that good energy. You're manifesting that everything around you is just going to be good. Because once you start thinking about the negative energy, that's when you start to focus on the negatives in your life. And oh my goodness, this is going to happen. Or oh my goodness, this is going to happen. It can be an intuition, but as
Mhm.
long as you don't pay that much attention to it, it may not even happen.
So, Val, we're gonna let you go because we know you have things to do. So, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, seriously. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy day.
Literally.
No, y'all are much busier than me, seeing like all those clients a day. Take care of yourself. I know y'all hear it all the time. Please take care of yourself.
All right, everybody, please like, subscribe, comment, share it with your friends and family. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok, therapists_unmasked. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.